What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Pixelists Podcast about all nerdy things we love and enjoy. As always, we're your hosts, or maybe not as always, because I think this is the illustrious return of our boy Blake. My time is a weird soup, though.
So good. Well, technically, our Critical Role episode was the return.
True,
so,
but you weren't here last Worlds Beyond, right?
True.
Okay.
True.
Okay. So yeah,
I've been busy working, which is our mask. You and I broke up for a few weeks.
True. We had a big falling out.
Yeah.
Lawyers had to get involved, and we figured it would just be easier to bend the bridge.
Hey, me and Todd are cool now. So,
classic.
How are you today, my friend?
I'm good, man. I'll spare everyone, and we won't launch into a full coffee hour. But I've got my normal coffee back. If you heard in our last Critical Role episode, I was dabbling in mushroom coffee. Would have since been to the store, so got my caffeine, my beans. I'm feeling good. How about yourself?
I got worms. That's what I'm gonna call it. So, if you're a first-time listener, we're all Giggles McGee over here. Just a couple of boomers.
That's
talking
right.
about.
That's right.
I've already drank my coffee. I got a new mug actually for my birthday.
Ooh.
So it's kind of a nice little out of focus.
Pretty. I like the is there like a name for that type of, I don't even know, like pattern design? I feel like I've seen like I bet there's like a fancy name for it, but I like that.
It is really pretty though.
Yeah.
And I usually get a big cup of coffee. I don't know if you're like an 8-ounce kind of guy, but I usually do like a 12-ounce.
I do the 12. 12 for sure.
Yeah. But I was gonna say something else to you. I don't remember what it was, but anyway, we're back. We're so back. And we're gonna be talking a little Worlds Beyond. Number today.
We
did a little Critical Role for last Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
You and I, we've both watched half of it. It's a shorter episode too, by the way. I think it's 3.5 hours. So if you watch that content, we'll have that one coming up in the next couple of days, I guess.
Yeah.
And we're going to be having a little bit of a watch party on Sunday.
They're back.
Blue Sub 6, an old Toonami dubbed anime film, which was originally a miniseries, but that'll be on Sunday at
7:30. Is when we usually did it, but I mean, we can
have half hour. We have half hour programming and full hour programming.
That's true.
And then we have our Friday stream. And Will,
yeah,
I have something for you.
What do you mean
for that Friday stream?
That Jennifer Lawrence meme? Like, what do you mean?
You better bring your A game, because there's a lot riding on that Friday stream, and seeing how well you know your stuff.
Don't remove me as a knowledgeable person.
I'm going to be asking you I'm going to be asking you for some directions. No, I'm just kidding.
We're all screwed then.
Will's notoriously bad. Actually, I don't know if you still are, but
no, I mean, that's not something I think you can fix.
You don't grow out of that one.
Yeah, I've coined it directional dyslexia.
Yeah,
it's a thing. All right,
is it?
I just can't help. Like, there's something about the way my brain's wired.
I think that's fair. Yeah, I think that's fair. Well, I won't be doing that.
Okay.
Good. We got something special.
Interesting.
But I'm trying to think what other announcements. I did mention in our WhatsApp how I'm all in on the incremental games, the idle games.
Yep.
You got me big into one called sci-fi. Well, you didn't get me into that one. You got me into idle games. But I've been playing one called Sci-Fi. It's pretty good. You're a big fan of the Alien idle.
Yeah,
one.
I mean, I don't even know. I wouldn't even call myself a fan.
You don't have to backpedal. You play it every day.
I'm just saying, it's like not a great game. It's just a good game at like getting its hooks in you to be like, well, I gotta go do my tasks.
You're like, I really don't enjoy it, but I do play it every day.
Yeah. Yep. That sums it up pretty well.
It's also a typical Blizzard game too.
Yeah.
It's about.
Yep.
Fits in that category. So, well, any other announcements before we jump in today?
I don't think so. I think that's pretty much it. As always, Discord will be linked in the description. Come hang out with us there. But yeah, that's all I got.
I do also have a special announcement that'll be coming on. Stay tuned to the YouTube.
Okay.
Sometime between next few days and 2 weeks from now, because I'm having to teach myself some stuff in the whole video world. And it would be easier just to pay someone on Fiverr to do it. But me and Will, we're broke, so we don't do that. But just keep your eyes peeled for something. So,
delicious.
All that to say, we like to start out our episode discussions with a little bit of a recap. And what we like to do is then take that recap and pull it out as its own separate video. So if you're watching just the recap, there is a link below to see our full discussion on the episode. And for you to let us know what you thought about the episode, you can click that link. But this was Worlds Beyond Number, episode 22, Bring Them to Me. And this episode essentially opens up with the party basically trying to do like their final check the boxes before they head off to ideally Tomo. If you remember, or Toma. Tomo?
Toma.
Toma, thank you. They know that they have to get to this witches band meeting in a few days. And but they have a couple of things they need to take care of first. One, most notably, is they need to go speak with Steel. Steel the night before, when everything was kind of going wild with the investigation in Haverward. Steel basically had said like, "Hey, don't leave yet. At least give me some time to have a conversation." So the party decides to head to go see Steel, but before they do that, they stop by Mr. Callum's shop, his little bakery dessert place, and they decide we have all this like random stuff. Like, let's see if he can hold on to it for us. So they ask Mr. Callum, "Hey, can you hold all of our stuff for us?" To which Mr. Callum, being the kind gentleman of a spell that he is, he says, "Yeah, of course I will. Why not?" It's also in this that Ame, who can't quite help herself, asks a question to Mr. Callum and essentially says, it sort of revives the conversation from a few episodes prior and asking, "Are you a spirit?" To which Mr. Callum is a bit thrown by this question. We know that functionally he is a cantrip that is personified, but it's sort of like breaks, not as programming, but he sort of like really has like a crisis of like, what am I? I don't think I'm a spirit. I think I'm Mr. Callum. I think that is what I am. And then Brennan has this amazing section of basically describing to Ame that she is a deep person. And because her mind always goes to deep interactions, deep conversations, understanding how the world works, that she often may find herself in conversations with people who aren't ready to have those conversations, or even for their minds to go there. Essentially, the way he describes it is Ame basically standing in deep water with talking with someone who's in the shallow end. And it was a fun moment because Ame, Erika Ishii was like, "This is about my character, right? Not me." All that to say, the party then moves on to Steele's house, and they begin chatting with her out in her basically patio garden area. And Aabria's character Suvi wants to know about if Silver is okay, to which Steele isn't sure about, but asks. The conversation then moves on to talking about Fort Kieran, and more specifically, the nature of the attack on Fort Kieran. In this, Steele reveals that essentially Yoren was present at the attack on Fort Kieran, and that the description of wild beasts attacking Fort Kieran, it was not actually beasts, it was shapeshifters, including Yoren, who had attacked Fort Kieran. They don't know why, they don't know what the grand scheme of it was, but that presumably there was some strategic reason for attacking it that's going to lead to something else. There is a weird conversation where Ame, they talk about the scrolls that have like the shapeshifters on it, which Steele mentions is based off of Yoren. And then Ame asks, "Well, are you the one who added the smell of iron on the scroll. And Will, we're gonna have to talk about this later about what exactly happened in this conversation, because Steele seems thrown by the fact that Ame has detected that and knows that. But then eventually says, like, yes, I did that. Very weird. We get confirmation that the spirit form, or excuse me, the beast form is a spirit from the spirit world. And the conversation shifts to essentially Ursulon asking about his sister and asking, like, hey, what do you know about my sister? Like, why was she here? What happened? And Steele basically reveals that the reason that, or part of the reason that her sister was captured was because she was continuously searching for mentions of basically Ursulon, that she was consistently looking for information about him, looking for information about his pauldron, and all these different things that linked to him over a great span of years. But more importantly, she stayed in the Citadel for so long that her glamour form didn't quite age like other people did. And so she became suspicious and was eventually captured and placed into the Spirit Art Gallery, the Kasov collection. The conversation then moves to Ame's business of needing to leave and go to Toma. And Steele is very insistent that they, one, likely shouldn't leave, but more importantly, wants to know, who's this person that you've been speaking to? Who's this diviner who told you that you'll face sudden doom or certain doom if you don't go? And Ame is very resistant to say who it is. She essentially says it was a diviner in Kambani Court, I think is what it was called.
Yeah.
And Steele basically says, like, how do you know that this person was being honest with you? I mean, even the best diviners are only right 51% of the time. So how do you even know not only that they are right, one, but two, that you could even trust them? And there's this interesting dynamic of Steele being like, hey, I'm right here. Like, you know, you're essentially saying you trust this person more than you trust me. At least give me time to get a second opinion. To which the party agrees. She leaves to go to Kambani Court to get more, to get a second opinion on what's going to happen with Ame. And meanwhile, Ame links in with the fox mentally, and the fox is like, what do you want to do? And Ame's like, forget this, we're going. To which the fox is like, okay, I'll take care of a way out then, and scurries off. Where, by the way, Sonder, Steele's husband, is like, hey, you need to go pee-pee, and like lets him out of the house for him to scurry off. And then the party, they're like, okay, I guess we're doing this, and they decide to go back to Mr. Callum's to pick up their things. Do you want to take it from there?
Yeah. Yes, sir. So they head back to Mr. Callum's to get their things, and Ame, once again, with her telepathic connection, checks on where the fox is, and she can see that he is kind of slinking around where the traveling doors are in Zhao Court. And he tells her, come this way, like, I'll be done soon. So they get on a Galathcopter to go to Zhao Court. But there's a new procedure in place. Suvi must announce who she is and what her business is before it'll take her anywhere. So she says she has an appointment at the Kasov collection. Excuse me. So Brennan says, all right, I'm going to need you to give me a deception check. And he kind of lets her know the stakes right off the bat. He says that you have to get a 15 to avoid dire catastrophes. You have to get a 20 to avoid disaster, and a 25 to succeed. So we find out that Suvi only has a +2 to her deception, and she'll have a +1 from a guidance roll. She gets a 7. So the Galathcopter takes off and begins to head to Zhao Court. And as they're flying, she can see that, as they're flying, she gets a sending spell from Steele that says, hey, I'm finishing up at the Kambani Court now. Let's meet at your place at the Tower of the Glove. And Suvi's like, yeah, change of plans. Ame said she needs to leave right now, so we're heading to Zhao Court. And Steele like gets like real serious real quick, and she's like, do not leave. That is an order. Like, remain at Zhao Court. I'll meet you there. So Ame and Ursulon, they obviously can't hear Steele because it's a sending spell, but they can pick up that like something has just happened with Suvi. So Suvi tells them what's up. And they're like, we got to stay there until Steel can come talk to us. So they land there, and as they do, they can see that there's already a few sky-ships like at Zhao Court, but now there are 2 more coming. And there's lots of soldiers around the traveling doors, like we spoke of. And Ursulon feels like the hairs on the back of his neck stand up, like he did. I think it was maybe 1 or 2 episodes ago when he kind of felt danger. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Ame can see the soldiers are kind of closing in on these gateways, and she's like, this is my chance. Like, I gotta go. So she closes her eyes one more time to check on the fox, and she can see that he's somewhere dark and is kind of like straining with all of his might to like push something. And he says to her, go to Gossamer Plaza. So Ame just starts to go, but Suvi grabs her, and we have a contested athletic check that Ame wins. And I believe Suvi makes a perception check, and when she grabs Ame in this way to like control her movement, she becomes just like, there's an awareness of like the magical power in Ame that she feels that like Ame could choose to punish me for this action 100 years from now. And on Ame's side of this interaction, she just kind of has this moment when Suvi grabs her and is trying to control her, that she like remembers all of the kindnesses she's ever done for Suvi throughout their entire life. And I think Brennan describes it as like she can feel those in the weight of her hand like a sword. And they look at each other, and like something just flashes across Ame's eyes that is like far older and more powerful than she is, but it's like just for a moment and then it dissipates. And both of them are like terrified, but Ame, having won the athletics check, breaks away from her and starts running away. Ursulon takes off after her. So we're rolling initiative from this point to keep everything in order. And Ame and Ursulon both get a 20. Suvi gets a 10. So this next section is basically a lot of rolling, where Brennan has both Ame and Ursulon. Well, first he asks them, are you trying to be stealthy or are you going for like speed? So Ame is trying to be stealthy, and Ursulon is just going for speed, which is going to translate into a deception check. Like, can he blend in without trying to be actually stealthy? So in addition to those rolls that they're making for stealth and deception, he's implementing a luck factor where he has them choose on a D4 one of the numbers, and like that will be their lucky number. And as this scene kind of goes on, he will eventually have them pick unlucky numbers of those 4 as well. So what happens here is they both start rolling, and both of them roll well. So both both Ursulon and Ame are able to like successfully make their way, but they do split up since they're going different ways about it. So they're doing that, and then we get to Suvi in the initiative order. And she is like kind of having a moment. Nothing's going to plan. As always, her 2 companions, they don't listen to orders. They don't respect her enough to, know the impact of their decisions on her. And even though she told them they need to stay here and wait for Steel, once again, they've gone off and done their own thing. So she just looks to a nearby soldier and says, hey, bring those 2 back to me. And she rolls a 21 persuasion. So basically these soldiers go after Ursulon and Ame at this point. We continue to make rolls to see if they can avoid these soldiers, again with the luck checks. They are successful in avoiding them so far. Ame checks back in with the fox, and he's like, hey, like, we've got 1 shot at this. Like, are we going or not? And Ame's like, well, Suvi and Ursulon aren't with me. But she says, you know what? Go. So the fox causes this huge distraction by basically knocking over these barrels full of magical sand. And the area that they are in the Gossamer Plaza is this area where a bunch of dimension door spells are going out to transport people across the Citadel. So these barrels tumble over, causing this huge commotion, and one of the guards like tries to stop one of the barrels with his staff, but the staff like breaks through it, and in that kind of commotion has like ignited this magical sand. So basically this becomes a huge bonfire as one barrel sets off the next, and the first thing that happens is 4 wizards just get teleported who knows where due to this like dimensional door teleportation magic. And it's just a snowball effect where the more sand that gets into this fire makes the magic more potent and more chaotic, and everything is just going haywire. So basically Ame's got a decision. She can jump into this like massive bonfire of a dimension door, but she doesn't know where it's going to take her. The fox's logic was essentially, hey, people use these dimension doors to travel, but it's a short distance, so if we amp it up with magical sand, we can go further. And so Ame decides she's going to go for it. So she kind of just jumps into this fire. And Brennan basically says, all right, I need an insight check and a wisdom saving throw. And she gets a 15 and an 8 respectively. We then cut to Ursulon, who again is taking a different path to get here, but he can see this bonfire happening now in the distance. So he makes a few more checks and is successful and is basically making a sprint for this bonfire. We cut back to Suvi. She sees the fire as well, and she describes just like a single tear rolling down her cheek, saying that they've never cared about the cost of what they do. They don't notice the things going on around them, like something terrible is happening in the world right now, and they can only think about themselves. She says, I've been pushed twice in 2 days, and of course, there's an inferno now because that's what always happens when they go and do their thing. So she just sits there. Doesn't try to go or anything. She just sits there and waits. We then cut back to Ursulon. And as he's sprinting through Gossamer Plaza, all of these butterflies that are in this area start like collecting on him. And he can feel his power being drained. And so he realizes that, spirits running rampant through here is exactly the type of magic this place has been designed to prevent. So we get one final of these luck checks from Ursulon, and he hits his lucky number for the first time in this entire sequence. So he's able to like successfully get away from this, and he says that in defiance, he drops his glamour and he's just in his full spirit form as he's barreling towards this bonfire. He gets there. Ame is nowhere to be seen because she has already gone into it, and so he basically has to decide what to do. He too just jumps straight in. So he too has to make that insight check in the wisdom saving throw, but he does, we're told, get a D10 inspiration on one of those. So he gets a 20 for the wisdom and a 31 for the insight check. So he jumps in. He doesn't know what's going to happen, but he knows one thing that he's always known is that he cannot remain where he's been. So he goes in. At first he's worried, but then that washes away because he realized what this bonfire, what this wild magic is magic, and he is magic. So in a way, like this is home to him. And he can feel Wavebreaker at his hip, like kind of start to hum and sing. And he realizes there's like something to dispel in the way that Wavebreaker can dispel things. There's like a tether. So he holds it up and cuts this tether that is attempting to do something. And on this 31, he realizes that the fire was kept small in order to control it, and wizards often keep things small to control them. So here, he's home. On that 31, he can basically go wherever he wants. Like he's in command of this teleportation spell in a way. So he's moving with confidence, and the fire starts to turn into like the trees, the forest around Grandmother Wren's house. And as he's like kind of walking through this, he realizes that he's like walking on a road. And so he turns around because he hears something. And on this kind of metaphorical road, if you will, we'll talk more about this in our discussion, I'm sure. But there's a shadow, and it's the shadow of the stranger, the one from the very first episode. And he's like, Brother Ursulon, I can't believe that I haven't had my eye on you. And just being very ominous. And so Ursulon is kind of like presented with this choice in this moment. Before him is seemingly Ame, like down the path toward Ren's. Behind him is this shadow of a stranger. But then he notices amongst them of this fiery forest, at the bottom of one of the trees is a burrow. And it's a burrow that he hasn't seen in a long time, but it's one that he's seen before. And so Brennan asks him, Ursulon, what are you going to do? Which way are you going to go? And that's where the episode ends. Devious cliffhanger. But once again, that is episode 22 of Worlds Beyond Number. Bring them to me. And if you want to see our full discussion, if you happen to be on our recap video, you will be able to find that in the description below.
Great job.
Oh man, what an episode.
I thought he said it wasn't the stranger at the very end.
Okay, he didn't. I shouldn't have said that like with certainty, because he never said for sure who it was, but I was just assuming that that's who it was.
It had a different. He had a different accent.
I couldn't remember, just because it's been so long. But
well, and it could be Brennan, doing like evolving the flavor of the character.
Yeah,
I'm all in on it being the oatmeal bad dude who's also from the Poltergeist.
Who's that?
The bad guy from the Poltergeist.
I don't know if I've seen that.
Looks like a pilgrim,
Okay, but so you're referring to the Pilgrim Under the Stars?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think he had like a southern drawl, maybe. I don't know, but yeah, I thought he said like a stranger, but not the stranger or something to that effect.
Yeah, he definitely said the word stranger, but I don't know if it was a or the. Now you got me questioning.
Because then I wondered, was he talking? Was it a creature in the burrow talking to him?
I'm pretty confident that's at least not it, because in my mind it was the let's just say A for now, a stranger behind him, Ame in front of him, and his sister's burrow was what I took it to mean.
Yes, because earlier when they were talking to Steele mentioned that his sister had not just been looking up information on him, but kept looking up information on the burrower.
Right.
So I thought he was saying there was like something in the burrow talking to him, like something nefarious-esque. Maybe it was just the stranger.
I don't think that was it, because he presented him with like 3 options at the end: the stranger option, the Ame option, and the burrow option.
Yeah. Okay.
So for that reason, I don't. And the stranger was on the road. That was like the whole point of that, I think.
Yeah, but I thought he was like giving more clarity to what was behind him.
You might be right, but that is not how I interpreted it.
Yeah, okay.
But now I'm just wondering if
I need to go back and listen to it again.
If it wasn't the Pilgrim, who do you think that was?
I mean, it either has to be the Pilgrim or, I don't know.
Yeah,
I didn't even necessarily mean for us to start there. I just
the
first thing I was thinking about. But
might as well.
I loved how Brennan characterized it, though. The greatest joy as a DM to ask this question.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
Well, not that I want to force my interpretation upon you, but just because I would like to talk about it. If we assume that was the Pilgrim for a second, what do you think that means? Like, the road stuff kind of checks out.
Yeah.
That like it would maybe be involved with that. But it seemed as if like he had never seen Ursulon before.
Or taken notice of Ursulon, because earlier Brennan mentioned, you're a minor spirit.
Right.
Right. But he did recognize him. Like he said, Brother Ursulon, like
That's
knew
true.
His name.
That's true.
But still, yeah, probably not good that this character is noticing him, I would guess.
So interesting too, because I mean, like, it wasn't a real road, but it was a road.
It was almost like he was accidentally on the road.
Yeah,
yeah, which they were supposed to avoid the road outside of Grandmother Wren's cottage.
That's what she told Suvi, but I mean, maybe presumably she would have told Ursulon the same thing at some point.
But with her luck check in that first episode, her heel touched the road, and then later on,
showed up.
The stranger showed up. Right.
Yeah. But I'm not like this comment for me is not an attempt to be nitpicky. I'm just trying to figure it out, because like surely Ursulon has stepped on a road. Like at some point in his life, right? That like when he was just being a, vagrant, going from place to place.
I think it's the significance of Grandmother Wren's road. And he was like in the magical middle, everywhere he could go, he saw like Grandmother Wren's cottage, because he knew that's where Ame was going.
Right.
And so in doing that sort of, kind of accidentally found himself on the road is kind of the impression I got.
Okay, that would make sense to me. That yeah, okay, interesting. It's kind of scary that like if it is the Pilgrim and he, if he didn't have an awareness of Ursulon and now he does and he already knows his name, like how does he know Ursulon's name? Like, which as we know is a very powerful thing to know about a spirit or anyone really, but especially spirits, it feels like.
True. I will say I loved Brennan's mentioning of like it's a great joy to ask this question, because we talked about this in our stream on Friday about great D&D, how a lot of times players come to a table and they expect the DM to like create everything, but how like some of the best sessions are when the players themselves like engage and create interesting moments. And I mean that's what we're seeing firsthand is Brennan basically teeing up Lou Wilson and being like, all right, man, where does the story go from here? And I'm very intrigued as to what we know, that Ursulon wanted to pull the gargoyle off the wall. So he almost pushed the button then. I almost wonder, would he engage with the stranger here?
I don't think so with his sister being an option. Like I feel like that's what he's going to do.
Yeah.
But I mean but I don't know. Ame is like in trouble right now, and yeah, I don't know. I'm really curious to see what option he picks.
Is Ame in trouble?
Well, just not like in this necessarily like immediate moment, but in the sense of like they've got 2 days to figure out her stuff, or she might, die or whatever. So maybe
did she succeed her wisdom saving throw?
I don't think he ever said. Like we had those numbers rolled, and her. Let's see, I have it written down. She rolled pretty low on that one, I think. Was an 8. So like so here's like, if Ursulon chooses to go with Ame, I feel like the strength of his roll could make it so they both get there safely. But if he chooses his sister or even the stranger, I wonder if that means Ame might not end up at Grandmother Ren's.
Here's the really interesting thing. Think about this for a second. The really interesting thing, Suvi is now separated from them.
Yeah.
What Sly told her, if Suvi's not with you, you will die. So this is kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not like, the party split up, what are we gonna do? I mean, it's like you, and I think it's very, I almost, I don't want to like now run this other line of thinking of like it's pre-planned or anything like that, but I think as a DM, sometimes you create like these, I want to say offhand comments, but like you do things and then like it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Things happen in the session that make you look brilliant. I mean, Brennan is brilliant, but Brennan made that comment, Suvi needs to be with you, whatever. And then coincidentally, how the next few sessions played out is now Suvi is not with them.
Yeah.
It's a very precarious situation.
Yeah. I mean, because I don't want to like jump too far away and go crazy from important. Like, I still want to talk about some of the things we're talking about, but like,
yeah, sure.
To briefly go there though, like the situation we're in is presumably Ame and Ursulon will still be together. Maybe they won't, depending on what Ursulon does, but maybe. So they're in Toma, and then Ame is the one, I think, right, that has the port to the North Pole.
Yes,
surely she has it, and not Suvi.
Right. I think
so. That's how they can get there. So basically, if Suvi can't somehow get to them in like the next day, she's not going to be able to. Because I mean, I don't know. Even if she could somehow get to the North Pole in that amount of time, how's she going to know where to go there? Like, even if she can get there. So like, yeah, from like a meta perspective, I'm really interested to see what happens here, because we also know that next episode is the last one of the arc.
Is it?
Yeah. So tomorrow's episode is the last one of chapter 2, which I'm guessing we don't actually get to the meeting with the witches. Maybe we do, and that's like the ending point. My first guess was going to be that it ended when they left the Citadel, and like that would be the end of the Citadel chapter, as it were.
I actually wondered if this was the end of the arc because it was so epic.
It could have been, yeah. It felt like
I didn't realize there was more because I haven't been tracking it, but this one was definitely incredibly intense.
Yeah, and so like to speak to kind of what you were talking about with Brennan and like you know, he was the one in control of the fox, right? So like he kind of set that piece on the board of this bonfire, but like how much of that did he have potentially ready to go, or like was that in the moment? Because obviously it was up to the players. Like nobody told Aabria how to act. Like she could have chased after them, but she didn't, right? But like there's a very real possibility of the party like actually being split with no, I mean, you can always make a way for them to get back together, but you know what I mean? Like, so I'm wondering if perhaps at the end of this chapter, if there's like a little time jump or something, like they got split and here's, you know, Ame had her meeting without
years.
Yeah, maybe not that big a one, but I'm just curious how this gets reined in with the time scale we know we're on with this meeting.
I mean, I feel like Steel would have to be involved to get Suvi to Ame. I mean,
well, will she want to though? Like, we'll both of them, I guess. Really, like, will Steel want to? Because remember, Sly said, Suvi, they're not going to let you go. So Steel might, especially after what happens, be like, no, I'm not doing that. And on the other hand, would Suvi even want to go with how she's feeling so like betrayed right now?
Suvi rolled a 7, right, on the deception check.
Yeah, yeah. So we still haven't seen the fallout of that.
We had dire consequences, or not necessarily had it, but like worst case scenario, we're in worst case scenario, right? Okay. So,
and I don't think that's happened yet. Do you?
I don't.
Like,
the way, knowing the destroyer of all good things, Brennan Lee Mulligan, I have a hard time believing that when he said dire consequences or like whatever phrasing he used.
No, that's like, what he said. Yeah.
I just have a hard time believing that he meant, you know, there's gonna be a big fire. People are gonna get little owies. Like I just don't. I just from what I know about Brennan, I'm actually extremely nervous for what this could mean now.
And also not to say that the bonfire stuff wasn't kind of crazy, but like that is in no way connected to her lie, right? I feel like the consequences he was talking about were like directly tied to that lie. So I thought initially when they landed, they were going to get like swarmed and being like, you just like lied about what, like you do not have an appointment at the Gossamer collection or whatever. So I feel like that shoe is still, I feel like that shoe is still to drop.
Which was the interface is that implied to be the what's the empire called? Szechuan Empire? What is it?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, we found out, and you and I haven't been able to talk about this since I haven't been on the last couple episodes, but we always thought the Citadel was like the peak of the Empire, and it's not. It's like the mage. It's like the mage capital, but the Empire is led by the royal family.
Oh, right.
I can't think of their name. Is what I was trying to pull on. It's an S name.
It's on the tip of my tongue.
And we had met like their Ministry of War and all that stuff in the previous episode. Very powerful people, notably not an S name, by the way, which I thought was interesting.
Right.
Point being, we found out the Citadel is kind of like, you know, in Lord of the Rings, the city they go by, that's like the home of the Wraith King or whatever. But it's not Sauron's spot, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's kind of the vibe I got. Point being, the people from the Empire are here investigating. My long-winded way of saying, do we think that mechanism of like identify yourself, is that wasn't specifically for her, right? That was some kind of added measure that these investigators from the Empire have added. And right? I mean, is that the correct thinking? Or
I looked it up real quick though. The Syrah, that's the name we were looking for. But yeah, I'm totally with you. I think that was like a new lockdown measure. Like before anyone can travel anywhere amongst the Citadel, like we're getting records of it. We're getting, so yeah, I totally do not think that was just a Suvi thing. That's like anyone moving throughout the Citadel has to do that kind of stuff now. Which is interesting to think if it's at the behest of the Syrah, which it probably is, but it also might have just been like a Citadel like lockdown procedure that already like existed. Maybe it's like, well, let's enact that type of thing.
And in the previous episode, when they were visiting Steele and they met Slate, and they were being taken up to Steele's sanctum.
Yeah.
And Brennan described Ursulon having the hairs on the back of his neck standing up. A sense of like being caught or what have you. Why was that present with Slate? Like why wasn't it just like, oh yeah, sure, I'll take you up there. Like, why was there like kind of this understood suspicion of them?
I think because of just the general situation, like there's a traitor in the Citadel, like we don't trust anybody. And I think it was exacerbated by Ame. In that scene, because she twice made a comment that like made everyone uncomfortable.
Went too far, right?
And like she like first asked a question with like no authority, being like, "Fill us in." And they're like, "Who is this witch?"
Yeah. So
and then
my very long-winded way of basically asking you, do you think the dire consequences are that this investigation could wrongly land on Suvi, or more specifically Ursulon and Ame, being wrongly accused of like being the traitors? Like, could that be the dire consequences?
I mean, it seems like the shoe would fit, like because there are traitors amongst the Citadel, and we are currently looking for them. Basically, is the vibe, right? Everyone's on lockdown. Portal doors are, nobody's using them. Because of the war or whatever, but it's like, and why did she lie? Like that, and he warned her. Like Brennan made it clear and cut. So I think absolutely that like it could be like, hey, we have on record here that you just straight up lied about where you were going. Like, what's up with that? But probably a lot harsher than what's up with that, considering she rolled a 7. So yeah, I think she's definitely going to get at least accused in some way, if not her, then her companions. And it's like, how much authority will Steele have to kind of rebuke that for her? And again, with that terrible dice roll after being warned, I don't know. But yeah, that was my guess, that they're like, she's gonna get into the fire because of what's this investigation, basically.
Poor Aabria needs a new dice set.
I know, man. She's rolled so bad.
She has not rolled well at all this arc, and I think also in the conclusion of the previous arc she had some tough rolls too.
Yeah, I feel like I remember that.
So coming to the end of an arc, they've partly left the Citadel. We've gotten so much lore, crazy amounts of lore.
Yeah.
There's one unanswered question for me, and that has been this strangeness around Steele.
Yeah.
And very specifically, this episode, we had the conversation around Yoren, where she seemed put off by Ame knowing about the smell of iron.
Yeah.
And then also the whole thing about Sly and her being so insistent on them not going, but her not really seeming to have a real reason for it other than just like, well, you can't. It was weird that she wasn't just like, you can't trust all the diviners 50-50, right? But she was very insistent. Like, I'm going to go myself and I'll come back and I'll tell you what they told me, which we know she was probably coming back to be like, hey, they said you're good. You're good. Mm-hmm. So I doubt she was coming back to be like, she's flying in. Hey, everybody. They said you're good to go. Oh, what? And just sees fire everywhere. Like, I I doubt that was the case. I think it's presumable she was coming back to be like, hey, you could trust me. They said you can't go. Okay. I don't know. I got such a big question mark, and we've been pretty suspicious of Steele, because the Pixelists, we always get our man,
I mean,
so
I'm with you, although I think I'm a little bit less harsh on the divination side of things. Like, I mean, like you just said, we've been talking about our suspicions of Steele for a while, so I don't know if I'm being too naive here, but to me, her kind of reservations there made sense. Because especially if she's right, like a good diviner is right 51, a great diviner is right 51% of the time. Like there's some diviner out there that they won't tell her who it is, which is
right.
Which in her mind I could see what.
Which who they also, I mean, Steele would know that even being a friend of Grandmother Wren, it can't be anyone that they have like a deep relationship with. So she's probably also put off by that of like this random person. Like,
yeah.
Sorry, continue though.
No, but yet just like, all I'm saying is like, I could see the benefit of the doubt for Steele in this regard, considering like they've got Ame thinking she's going to die in 2 days. And Steele's like, well, hold up. Even like the best possible divination is only accurate this amount of time. And do you know how easy it is to trick somebody? Like, these diviners reach out into the void for a vision, like unguarded, like that. Especially a coven of witches has the power to like influence a vision they might see. That all makes sense to me. So like, I understand her reservation in that sense of being like, you won't tell me who told you this. Like, can we please just go get a second opinion at least? And I think if they had been like, yes, I think they would have all gone together. But it is interesting that she goes by herself. But I took that as like, they're not going to entertain that, but you can go check if you want to. So I'm interested to know what she found out. Especially because she was like, this is an order, do not leave. Like maybe she found out, maybe she found out like you're in danger if you leave, which if she is a bad, not a bad guy, but like if she does have an ulterior motive, she could be lying about that, But I will say the moment with Yoren though, definitely, I wrote that down as a little note as well, because I was like, that was weird.
That was the first time I've seen Brennan slip, not like a DM slip. Like Ame asked, like, well, what about the smell? And Brennan, or I should say Steele, honestly, not Brennan.
Yeah.
And Steele was like, yes. Like the way it was answered, and maybe someone in the comments can tell me if like I missed something here, but like the way it was answered was just very like, and there wasn't an insight check. I was kind of like, my people,
what are we
please,
doing?
Somebody insight check, please. But it felt like Steele was surprised that Ame knew about the smell.
Yeah, it did. It felt like a slip, but yeah, like Steele slipped. Like,
not
like Brennan was intentional with that.
Yes. Right.
But yeah, I had the same thing, because why would that be weird? Because if the only explanation I could come up with is like, those were for Grandmother Wren, you shouldn't be looking at those. But Ame is Grandmother Wren now, to put it very simply. Like, she is the witch of the world's heart now. So like, of course you would expect her to look at that, like, so the fact that it surprised Steele just really threw me off. So I didn't know what to make of that. Like, was it because she is involved, let's say? I don't want to say she's evil or she's bad, but like she's involved, and like that's something she didn't think people would find or something. Like, I don't know.
I kind of wondered. It's so tough. Dang you, Brennan. It's so tough because I don't know if it's like a smoking gun that she's responsible for the curse. Like, because one thing we talked about too was the curse. How did the curse get put on them? And which we don't even know the mechanics of it. If someone can like put a curse on someone from far away, or if like they're like scrying means, or if you have to physically be there or what have you. So we don't know the mechanism of curses. But if it's physical, she literally brought a scroll that possibly cursed her in retrieving it. And we also talked about, like, is it possible that the curse was made to seem like it was Yoren all along, which Steele has coincidentally, maybe not coincidentally, been pushing that arc a lot.
Right.
Yorn's responsible for your parents' death. Yorn was at Fort Kieran, blah, blah, blah. So for me, I think it was either, like you said, which makes sense either way. Oh, I'm surprised you were going through that. Yes, it is. Or it was, oh, I didn't quite expect you to pick up on that detail. And I'm a little suspicious. Not suspicious, but I'm potentially caught, I guess. So
yeah, it was just weird, right? Because that was like the connective tissue in the curse, right? The fact that like that smell was present when Ame was like expelling, like when she was vomiting and stuff. Like it was very Yorn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your vomit was very Yorn-esque.
Yeah. So like maybe that was planted by Steel to make that connection.
Right.
But I don't know, man, because on one hand, on like a meta level, we know that there's this whole, like the whole story is basically like wizards versus spirits, kind of, sort of. Like that's one of like the main tensions in this world. And we've talked about like, is the Citadel good? They do some messed up stuff. And so to have this kind of like narrative in the story about like these traitors in the Citadel, the Akitator and whatever the other group was called, that they were weeding out, that all four of these people were a part of, Sui's parents, Steel, and Yoren. It just is very like, and I don't want to say tropey because I'm not criticizing it at all, but it would make so much sense that like everything's flipped on what we think it is. Like the traitors are the ones in power in the Citadel, and this group that was like within the Citadel working against it, they're actually the good guys because they're trying to like enact change. And like Yoren was the closest ally of Soft and Steel, and he's been framed now by, like,
and Steel, who is diehard Citadel, and realizing all of this, ultimately went with the Citadel. I mean,
like maybe she's not even evil, but it's like I have a choice to make. Like I can prop up like this establishment that like I've worked my whole life for, like. So I'm not even saying that like she's the sinister BBEG. Like maybe she was just faced with a really tough choice. And but yeah, like that. Not that that's the stories that Brennan's painting, but the pieces are there for that type of story.
Yeah, and somebody commented on one of our videos because we had talked about tropes or something like that, and they said, they said something like, there is like no I'm gonna butcher it now because I can't think of it. Like,
nothing new under the sun, basically.
Thank you. Yes, yeah. Basically that. Good job on saying that expression right, by the way.
That one I know.
I was about to just ruin it big time. So like it's like, is it tropey a little bit? But I personally think it's a little bit more interesting if that ends up being the case. But sometimes also I think as DMs we try to be a little too creative, and it makes things very disjointed and like complicated. It's like, well, wait, so like you're a quadruple agent? Like, wait, what?
Mm-hmm.
Like that kind of stuff. So but I think that's the most compelling potential story detail, is that things are flipped from how we think they are.
Yeah. Yeah, and just for the record, in case anybody thought that was like a criticism, of course, no, not at all. Like I think that would be amazing if that's the direction that it's going. Yeah, because really there is nothing new under the sun, really. Like you can't just do something that's never been done before. So like that, this was in no way a criticism or anything. This is just trying to piece this together.
It's like I say, I mean, my sole reason to play D&D is to pull all the greatest moments from my favorite games and movies and put them into the story.
Yeah, 100%.
You find an ocarina that as you blow it,
you can time travel and teleport with it.
I like slide sheet music. And if you could play this song for me, it's only 3 notes. I don't understand.
Yeah. Because I mean, just to be fair, if it wasn't what we just said, and it is just Steel's the good guy, Yorn's the bad guy, that would be a trope too. Like you really can't get away from it. So like, just in no way was that a criticism. Just trying to make that clear.
But note how shallow this Yorn thing is, though, of Steel being like Yorn was there, and then as they talked about it, it was like, well, I don't know, he was there. I mean, but pretty good guess he was there. I mean, someone a lot like him was there.
Yeah.
You know, so that's why I'm a little like even more suspicious. And like, I will say, I think it is interesting if it is flipped and Steele isn't like mustache twirling evil. I think the best evil characters are the ones who make really complicated decisions. And Robbie Damon, shout out, I love you. Come back to Critical Role. Robbie Damon's had a really awesome insight. Tweeted back when EXU season 1 came out, and we were like somewhere mid-season around like, where's this gonna go?
Yeah.
And there was some conversation on would Robbie's character go evil, and he basically tweeted like, what's good, what's bad. Essentially, all there is complicated people who make complicated decisions for better or worse. So I could see Steele being like, this is where my home is, where my kids are. Like, this is my identity. I'm the sword of I'm the sword of the Citadel.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm very interested to see where all this goes.
Yeah, totally with you. If Steele is kind of being deceitful and there's more under the sheets there, I think it's absolutely one of those cases. Yeah, let's not focus on that. More behind the scenes there, more underneath the surface. That's what we got.
You're just so confident as you said it.
I was searching for it as I was speaking, and I just couldn't land there.
It makes me think of when my wife and I are in an argument, and I like misspeak or I mispronounce something, and it's kind of not intense. It's just a serious conversation, but both of us, like, she gives me a look of like, and I'm like, don't say anything, please.
Yeah, totally.
So,
but yeah, I think that it's absolutely one of those situations. If Steele is, up to no good, to put it very simply, I think there's definitely complicated decisions behind it. Because Brennan is fantastic at what he does. Like, it's not just gonna be like a one-dimensional, I want to take over the world. So, I'm honestly just interested to see what happens with all of this. Because on one hand, I hope I'm completely wrong. Like, it'd be cool to just like to be completely shocked with what's actually happening here. I don't want Steele to be bad. Like, I really like that character, and it does seem like she's, aside from these kind of weird moments we've talked about, has like done everything in her power to help them all.
I think it's both. I think it could be both and in the sense. I hate that expression, by the way, because I don't understand it.
I don't think I've ever heard it before.
You've never heard that before?
I don't think so.
I don't think I'm making this up. I think both and. People say this when they go, well, it's both and, to mean like two things could both be true. But then when I hear it, I'm like, can you just say both?
Yeah, the presumption around that phrase is that they're different things, but they're not.
Right.
Both both would get the job done.
By the way, I don't know if you can hear my daughter's like literally melting down in the background. So
no, I can't. If you need to go, Dad.
No one's being harmed. Every now and then you got just a tough day.
Yeah, so I don't think it's coming through.
Okay, good. Sometimes when I edit our podcast or I go back to like look for sound bites, I can hear clips where you can just barely hear a screaming child, and it adds to the flair of the D&D channel.
Yeah.
So. Anyway, what were we just saying? Oh, but I was going to say it's both. She can be like doing what's best for them and then coincidentally being like, hey, yeah, and this is also pretty good for me too.
Yeah. So, yeah, totally.
So, yeah.
So, yeah, that, I'm sure it's for anybody that's been following us since the beginning. They're like, well, these guys will not get off of this Steele agenda.
You can know that we stick to something endlessly for months on end. And then once it's proven right, we brag about it. And when it's proven wrong, we will never speak of it again. We will never talk about it. It was like in Critical Role when I was all in on that lewdness thing. And I was like, God, I was like desperately trying to get everyone in on this idea. I don't know if you were following that chatter and the live chat about it.
About last week?
Yeah, on Thursday. I was really trying to get everybody in on this. And then once it was pretty clear it wasn't the case, I just didn't say anything again.
But then it like kind of was the case. I haven't finished the episode yet. So.
I haven't finished the episode either. So now I'm kind of like, wait, was it?
I'm just talking about only stuff that was in the first half.
This could be redemption. Oh, no, I don't think it was.
Okay, then I must have been misunderstood.
Yeah, unfortunately.
I forgot where we were. But to slightly move away from that, a couple of things before we wrap up here is one. I mean, we say this every episode. I'm pretty sure, but just Brennan is so good at like the poignant, off the top, like deep philosophical analogy.
Bro, how does he do it? You know, I'm just like blown away by like how gifted he is in like seizing these moments.
Mm-hmm.
And I almost want to, I didn't mean to take over, by the way.
Yeah, go ahead.
You were talking about, but I almost want to like get better at it, but I almost feel like my players would be like, so like, do I open the door or not? Like, I rolled a 31. Like, do I unlock it?
I'm like, you reach for the handle, your childhood memories.
Which we joked about this in the live chat, which we don't do a live chat for Worlds Beyond, guys, but we do it for Critical Role, which is another plug for the Discord. But I made a joke about Brennan Lee Mulligan, and someone had like the perfect description of how Brennan Lee Mulligan would have like set the stage, you know?
Yeah.
But anyway, so I would love to be basically Brennan Lee Mulligan in my sessions with like how compelling he is.
Yeah.
At creating these moments. It's there's this one, and then I can't remember if we actually recorded. I don't think we did. The one where Ursulon painted the shield too, and his sister like coming down the road. Like, it's amazing, his skill set.
Yeah, it really is. I think one, that's just like the type of person he is, like a very deep, insightful, like I know he studied philosophy, so like I think that's just in his wheelhouse very much so. And then paired with, I don't know how old he is, but like 30 years experience of DMing, 20 to 30, I would guess.
Right.
So just a master, right? But yeah, that you mentioned it in the recap, but that analogy with the pool and Grandmother Wren being like, somebody from the shallow end walking into a deep conversation and realizing that, oh, Grandmother Wren's not shallow, she's just so tall. That like it was just, I'm butchering it, but it was great.
Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah, and I mean, honestly, sometimes he gets going on some of those not tangents, but like analogies or metaphors, and you're kind of like, where are you going with this? And then as he like wraps it up, you're like, you genius, you are
maestro.
So yes. Brennan, please come on our show and talk to us.
Bro, I mean, I was about to say he probably would, and in no way is that a reflection of us, just that I've seen him go. Like, I've just randomly stumbled across interviews of him on like really like small channels, which, no disrespect, we're a small channel, but like he's the type of guy that probably would, if we could ever like get in touch with his people.
Yeah, there's definitely like a line there of like parasocialism where I'm just like,
yeah,
he's such a cool dude, you know? And like all I know is through like DMing.
It's like the Chris Farley interview. We had him on here. Remember that time in Calamity when you asked why do we tell stories? That was great.
Yeah. We love that. Can you do it again? He's like, right now?
Do it right now. Do like tell us something deep.
Yeah. Oh man. Too funny. Well, I'm really excited for tomorrow's episode then. I'll be gone most of the day, so I'll have ample chance to listen to it. So
yeah,
I'm very excited.
End of a chapter, which I'll shelve this conversation because it makes more sense to have it next time. But I can't believe we're already here. Like, this arc was much shorter than the first one, or maybe it wasn't, but it felt like it was. In terms of just episode count,
maybe it was. I don't know if it actually was.
Did not feel that way to you? Am I coming out crazy?
I mean, I because I'm so used to Critical Role, we talked a lot about the pacing, the content pacing.
Yeah.
For me, it's like really perfect. I feel like there's always an episode for me to listen to. But regardless of that, I feel like, when did this series start? Was it episode 16?
That's what I'm not sure. Well, yeah, if it was, that means there's only been 6 episodes, so it's like a third.
Yeah, okay. All I was going to say was the very early episodes were very short.
True. That is true. Weren't like some of them even less than an hour, like just around an hour, maybe?
Yeah, let's see here.
And then we had a while where there were like 2-hour long episodes. But now we're kind of slinking back down a bit.
Right. Okay, let's see here.
That's a good point.
It's taking like 2 seconds. Okay, Worlds Beyond. Say my name.
Say my name. Say my name.
Actually, I don't remember which one was the finale.
But yeah, I wonder.
Yeah. Anyway,
I wonder. Well, this makes more sense to talk about next episode, I think. So to circle us all the way back around to kind of where we started.
episode 14 was the last one.
Okay, so I mean,
so this one was about 10 episodes.
Yeah.
Well,
no,
counting 9 episodes.
So a little more than half. Right? Did you say normal?
Well,
the first arc was 14 episodes. This one is 8, right?
It's probably just best we just leave this conversation. I'm really having a hard time.
We'll hit the numbers and we'll revisit this next time.
Just being real candid, man, I'm having a real hard time with the math. So
it's been a long day.
Once you get into double digits, it just,
we'll try to gather ourselves and we can talk about it next time.
You come to our channel for the mildly interesting comments, not for
the math.
Yeah.
What do you? We kind of talked about it, but just kind of wrap it up here. What do you think Ursulon's going to do? Well, I know we might slightly disagree on if there are 3 choices or not, but in my mind, there are 3 choices.
I think ultimately he's going to go after Ame. I think he knows what's at stake with Ame. I think as he's sort of like, as a guise, has described himself as like the protector of Suvi and Ame. Yeah. And I think he's going to really lean into that. So I envision him going after Ame. I think
you're probably right. But how kind of tragic in a way, that like his one chance to kind of, seemingly meet up with his sister, and like we don't really know where that is. It's just like through the coincidence of this magic that he could go there, but like he doesn't know, like, okay, at least I know where she is now, so I can circle back to this later. Like he's gonna have no way to know where that tree was. Unless the implication was that she was burrowed right near Grandmother Rin's house, but I highly doubt that.
Well, and was the implication that that was this? I thought maybe the implication was that was like the berry of like the spirit world or something, like his sister's hovel. To which I thought it was even more tragic. Of like, you have a chance to, like, you're way shadowed, maybe
to go back to the spirit world,
or maybe even go back.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. That could totally be the interpretation of that is not where she is presently necessarily, but like the past burrow in the spirit world. That would be interesting too.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well,
like her sister wasn't physically burrowed. Sorry, I think someone's going to bed early. I don't think it makes sense for a sister to have been living at Grandmother Wren's cottage, right?
Right, agreed. So I think that if she was like physically in that burrow, then that is just like a product of this magic teleportation. And like she is in a burrow by that tree, but that tree could be anywhere in the world, type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Is how I interpreted it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
I don't know. I'll ask you back what you think is going to happen, because we only got a few minutes left of the show.
I think you're right that he'll ultimately choose Ame, both for like, because I think that is in his character, and like I mentioned, she is in danger. But I do think that's also on a meta level probably makes the most sense, and not 3-way splitting the party. But I do think it's tragic, because and maybe that tree isn't representative of like a literal meeting with his sister right now, but that was the impression I got. And so for him to give that up is, like Ursulon can never win, man. Like he can't ever. True. So I feel bad for him.
Well, and I mean, can we even trust what he saw? I mean,
yeah, that's a great point. What if it was a trick from the shadow?
Think about the intentionality of Brennan's language of like, everywhere you've been, there's been a trap or something like that. I can't remember the start of the sentence.
Yeah.
So I am a little curious. I think Brennan's a pretty nefarious DM in terms of some of the things that he does. And so I'm curious to see that side of him, and if we could maybe be closer than we think to it.
Yeah.
So
Well, good news is we don't have to wait very long.
True. So anyway, we're about out of time, and we got our next episode will be Critical Role. I guess I don't know if we'll be able to get to it tomorrow, but certainly by Wednesday for sure. And yeah, anything else?
That's all I got.
All right, guys. Much love to you all. We'll catch you later.
Yeah. See you guys.
See ya.